So in my last video, I talked about how I was testing my nervous system in different ways. Tennis, out in the backyard, in front of my father with a BB gun and a sign, all these different ways. First of all, I want to give my father props. He taught me very well. Like, don't shoot a BB gun with houses in the background. I just knew I could do that without causing any danger at that moment. But with me being such a shaky kid, my father did the right thing by telling me not to. But he was always the first person to tell me not to do something, but the last person to try to help me with what I needed. That's a little bit problematic when you need clothing, you need non poisonous food, you need shelter, you need an education. When you need those things and you're not getting it, that's a big problem. I mean, I would get all those things in an orphanage. I mean, while other kids in the orphanage were getting an education, food, and a small amount of medication, I was getting no education. I was getting food poisoning. I was getting drug poisoning from my mother. I mean, just total different circumstances for me. I got the worst of both worlds. I got made fun of for being in a wealthy family, but the wealthy family couldn't even get me a decent education, couldn't get me decent health care for any of my stuff. And the education had nothing to do with a learning disability as much as my parents try to play it off to be. If they try to say that I was slow, well, then why did the teacher in first grade want me to continue and my mother wanted me to redo first grade? Why did the teacher think I was fine and I completed first grade just fine on my own, but my mother wanted to hold me back? And here's another one. Why did I get no education in New Mexico, and why wasn't it enough to even learn the basic of tasks? And whose decision was it to move to Texas? Are you telling me that moving somebody from Western Massachusetts right out of school and moving them all the way to Texas, then he gets made fun of for his accent? He has to spend most of the year figuring out what his grade level's at and then having to catch up with the other kids. You're telling me that that's not going to be harder than just going to the next grade? And on top of that, being uprooted out of that school and then having no classes, or having 3 months of classes and then no classes for 18 months in New Mexico, and then being homeschooled with a mother who can't homeschool and knows no clue what your level's at and has made bad decisions like drugging you, giving you extra medicine, having you redo a grade that you can pass and the teacher is recommending to your mother to move. No, don't do that. But my mother, kept on asking the teacher, please, please. And when the teacher said, no, that's not a good idea, my mother pushed until the teacher kept me back. So you got all that going on. And then they try to act like it was a learning disability I was born with. No, I was doing fine until first grade when my mother got involved with my education. At first grade, that's when my education goes south. And why does it go south? Because at first, my mother wants me to repeat a grade that I passed. Then she's moving me around constantly. Then she puts me in a position where I don't get an education. Then she puts me in another position where I don't get an education. Then she continues destroying my health with drugs and different types of pills that I do not need after she's already caused an overdose and gave me extra Epicac as a punishment, destroying my esophagus and stomach. And now I end up in a school where I get literally no education. I get to play with Yu-Gi-Oh cards and toys for a year. And when I tell my mother and father, what do you think they do? They get me in trouble. I have to be stood up in the classroom. The teacher leaves the classroom for the day again. And all the kids are mad because they have to sit in their desk for 30 minutes, but the teacher's out of the room all day. So even though the teacher said, you have to sit in those desks all day, and Zach, you got to stand up at the chalkboard all day. Now, no lesson plan, no books. She left, like always, so the kids just went on the floor, played their Yu-Gi-Oh, played their toys, and they forgave me after about an hour of making fun of me and yelling at me and me being scared because my mother and father made the wrong choice once again. They scarred me once again. So yes, this is the problem. My father and mother keep on lying. So when I go to the doctors, They don't know up from down with me because all they have on file is a fantasy that my mother and father made up. And now I only want us to get closure. I have forgiveness for my father, but first of all, he needs to admit that he had a problem. I had an addiction problem. That's solved. That's long over. But he has a problem where he destroyed my health and I'm going to need medical care. We also got a problem. He fucked up my Social Security that should be supporting me. So I can't collect my Social Security thanks to my father. So he needs to clean up that mess before he passes away. Now he's just at the right age to clean this up. Then he can have a little more of retirement before he passes. He's probably going to need a home. His new wife will have to be changing his diapers and taking care of him. And if she can't do that, then there'll need to be some type of services. I have not taken my father's health out of my mind. I have a lot of care for everybody. But that doesn't mean I'm going to pay for somebody else's sins, suffer, and shave off 40 to 50 years of my life, all for a man who only has 2 years to live. Or actually, probably 8 years to live. Or 2 to 8 years to live, my father probably has. And if he doesn't try to do something to clean up what he did, or fix some of the Social Security records, or clean up some of the Social Security fraud, or medical, or the fraudulent, or misleading, or the messed up medical file that's getting in the way from me getting medical treatment. If he doesn't fix some of the lies and manipulations his second wife made while he was going along with it, if he doesn't undo some of the paperwork that has his name on it, if he doesn't try to find the doctors he brought me to, if he doesn't do this stuff, I'm destined to die in the woods because I can't work, I can't collect Social Security, I can't use a shelter. He's brought me all over the country, so I have no roots. I've been adopted into his family, so my whole family, my biological family, is dead to me, basically, because I've given all my time and all my life to this family, to my nephew, to my brother. I can't say my sister, I didn't give much to her, but I gave a shitload to my father, and I gave a shitload to my mother. She took my health, my nervous system. My father took my Social Security. And I mean take, I mean he physically took. I mean literally a DMH worker said straight to me in front of them that he will have to pay me for that full year of Social Security that he took illegally. And then if I signed the paperwork, I was going to get about 11,000 something dollars, close to 12 grand. But I gave my father a chance, and as long as he acted like a father and helped me keep my Social Security, I told him I was not going to sign and I would bail him off the hook. So I bailed him off the hook, and then he ran from his fatherly duties, and I still don't have Social Security to this day. And I should have known better with all the Social Security, all the greedy problems I've had with my father before. I mean, I should have known better too when my mother passed away that he was going to pull some trick. I mean, of course, I knew there was going to be some type of inheritance, but I had no idea. I mean, I didn't really want the money. That wasn't important to me. But the fact that my father thought it was such important that he should rush in there. Like he got mad that I didn't allow him to steal some other money. I put money into a CD, $1,900, because my father told me that would be a good idea to put it into a CD. Now, when he threw me out, I went to the bank, showed my ID, and withdrew my money that was mine. Now, later, my father got mad because I withdrew that money. Now, I asked him, are you mad because I didn't get the extra $50 on the CD, or are you mad because you were already on the way to withdraw it and I got there first to my money? Are you mad because you wanted to steal my money and I got to my money first? Because that's the truth. My father went to the bank. He went to steal the $1,900 that was supposed to be used for rent. And that's exactly what it went to, was housing. It went to staying with people and couch surfing. It literally went to people who let me stay in their house. And that's just where it went. I was able to divide it up. I was able to give out weed. I was able to find places to stay. But he was mad because he didn't get there first and wasn't able to steal it. He wasn't able to withdraw my money in time because I had him on the shared account, When I put my money in that bank, he wanted his name on that account. Now, that wasn't his money. He didn't earn it. He didn't win it. I know that that money, that $1,900, did not come from my mother or father. It did not come from them. It came from winnings and earnings. So, why was my father so upset? He was upset this time because you can tell the difference. Oh, you could hear that crack in my arm. That was just from me talking. Literally, my arms and legs crack sometimes just from the slightest movement. Anyways, yeah, that's thanks to my mother and father and the years of drugs. Oh, great. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna end this early. My shoulders are cracking from talking. That's probably fucked up, huh? I mean, it's not really talking. It's kind of just the movement on this bed. Just the shoulder, slight movement of weight shifting on the muscles, but everything cracks. If you play this back, I'm sure you can hear the crack. Fucked up shit. You should hear my legs when I just try to stand up. Crackety crack. I sound like a damn popcorn maker sometimes. My muscles cramp up. You can see all different types of bruises, scrapes, scars. Yeah, you can thank my mother and father for a lot of those. A lot of those scars I got before I was even 15. I mean, one of my fucking favorites of my PTSD memories must be the very clear memory of my mother giving me medication in a hallway and then me losing the ability to see Mr. Freeze and Batman on the screen. Then turning to my mother for help and realizing my mouth is numb and doesn't work because my nervous system has been affected. Then realizing I can't feel the carpet or stand up. Then trying to get help. And then my mother leaving me in front of my father on a pile of newspapers to die and refusing to bring me to the hospital. That must be one of the most goddamn, most fucking bullshit memories I got that pisses me off. Yes, a mother doing that is completely fucked up shit. That's the worst shit I've ever heard, a mother. And the fact that my father thinks that this is okay. This is okay. Call it a fantasy and hurt him some more after he spent years processing this PTSD and trying to come forward with this and trying to be nice about explaining it to you. And then you just make it harder and harder and harder and harder until it's just like you want to jump off a ledge because your own father is completely nuts and your mother drugged you for years and he doesn't want to hear it. The shit that he saw in front of him is wrong. I could go up to my father and mention stuff that happened right in front of him. Same thing with my sister. If I went up to my sister, I would say, how about the time my mother admitted to giving me extra Epicac as a punishment in front of you, your husband, and my father? I asked you, does anybody see something wrong with my mother giving a child extra Epicac? And my sister said yes. Her husband said yes. And my father in the kitchen said no, there's nothing wrong with that. That happened. I don't care who you are, that fucking happened. And it's wrong. I don't care who you are. You do not have the right to cause 25 years of hurt and pain and suffering in some other orphan that you adopted. Now, I've given them forgiveness. I've given them love. And I got a lot more room to bear. I was able to protect my nephew. And I wasn't the best uncle either. I was a child getting abused. I didn't start really realizing how to deal with this shit until about 18, 16, stuff like that. But the drugs were a big part of this. My mother brainwashed me. I'm on many, many, many pills, sedating pills, and I'm brainwashed into thinking I need these for life. Those had to stop. I had to stop drugging myself because on my mother's fantasies, on what the doctors worked with my mother on. My mother would spin a fantasy, the doctors would feed into it. My mother would spin more fantasies, the doctors would feed into it. They would give me drugs that would cause more side effects. My mother would make up more fantasies based on those side effects. The doctors would prescribe more drugs. I would get the spins. dizzy, be up and down from the drugs. Then they would prescribe more drugs. Then my mother would make up more fantasies. Then there'd be more drugs. My mother would be hitting me with rulers, doing crazy ass shit left and right. I wouldn't know how to use my nervous system. I'm ADHD now. I have PTSD. They're bringing more drugs into it. The doctors are feeding into more fantasies. You can't live like that without there being craziness in your life. So I stopped all the craziness in my life, and I get to live normal as soon as we get a diagnosis from this neurological disorder. Now, thanks to me working so hard, my kidneys are failing, and I think that might be from the sewage water that came out of my pipes. I have had a GI problem for a while from probably lifting too much at work while injured and forcing myself, because that's my power. I have willpower. I have God giving me strength. I want to do God's will every day. So no matter how much pain I am in, I try. Even on the worst day, I try on the phone. I always try to help others and help myself as much as possible, and not in a greedy way, not financially. Even though there is financial needs, you need sufficiency is what I call it. You only need sufficiency, and then you should give your time to God. So I give a little more than most. I try to give 1/10 of my time all the time to some charity or something. And I give all my time to God every single day. So 1/10 of my actual time should go to some other charity or somebody else, and all my time should go to God. And then there's always just making sufficiency. Even a monk needs a bed and a room. Even a monk needs shelter and a candle for lighting. You still have sufficient needs that have to be met. That's all I want. I just want my needs met. I want medical care. I want to be safe. I want to make sure that I can be indoors, make sure I'm not having seizures, make sure I can put food on my table, make sure I can help others, make sure I join the church and volunteer on whenever day I can get down there. These are the things I like to do. And don't forget, help the needy, because even Jesus worked with the lepers. And that's something you don't see real Christians doing. That's how you can tell a real Christian. See how many people in the church will go to the least desired people and help them. Because that is what you have to do. That's what the story of the leopards mean. The leopards were the most undesired people at that time. So see how many Christians will really help the non-decided, the ones that they don't get any credit for, the leopards. Because if you help children, you're a good person. You get that good feeling. You get a dopamine rush. And if you help the orphans, 90% of your money is tax deductible and all. How many of you guys would do it with no tax deduction, and people will give you shit for helping them? Because don't forget, when Jesus helped the leopard, people looked down on him for helping the leopard. So I dare you to help an elderly sex offender or a disabled man who's a pain in the ass with no family, or an addict on the street who's still actively using, or a hooker. These are the leopards of today. Or a guy in a wheelchair who's a drunk, or a guy with one leg who's a drunk. I dare you to help those people without getting yourself hurt, and make a real difference. I'm talking about where there's a visible difference. The hooker really stops hooking. The sex offender has a better life and is safe. The mentally disabled man who's like a child, he's now housed and back with his mother. Things like that. See how well you do. Because that's a real Christian right there. Not these people who go to church and then just want to look good in the image. They want to put something on their Facebook to blow up that they're such a good person. Oh, what a great Facebook post. No, see, that's the problem. If hundreds of thousands of people are giving you a rush for whatever you did, or you're getting taxes off, that's great. But there's other stuff to be done that's not being done. There's the hard stuff in life. There are the people in need out there that still need it, and they need somebody who's not looking for a rush or looking to be praised on the shoulder for how good they're doing. No, if you want to do good by God, Try doing it without any recognition like I do. I get little to no recognition. I've been working with the worst and the hardest people to deal with. The families have dropped, DHH has dropped them, everybody has dropped them for over 15 years. No, 10 years. 10 years. And I've made a real difference, a visual difference, where a total stranger is hugging me and these people are back with their families straight. These are pregnant women with a family keeping their babies. These are hookers in Lynn who get back with a family after 3 months of rehab. No drugs, no old boyfriend. All they needed was a short apartment stay, a call to the family, some time to think things over, some time to discuss things with the family, some time to cool down, some rehab time, some sober time, then back with family time. And for some reason, I mean, they don't have to come back and thank me, but God sends these people at my worst. When the 3 months was up, and oh my God, Trish, oh, it's been so long. Tasha? Anyways, the prostitute, who is no longer a prostitute, came to my house about a month before I'm about to lose it. So things aren't going so well for me because I'm still using now. And when this prostitute left, I just started using. I got her back with her family when I still had my own shit to deal with. I don't even think this prostitute knew really what was going on with me, because she had her own shit to go on, and I wasn't like her ex-boyfriend. See, her ex-boyfriend used to put her out, the prostitute, for money. I couldn't do stuff like that. I could not have sex with these people. I did not invite them in for sex. I invited them in for my Christian duty. I do not want her to get beating, or I do not want her to be used. So there's my couch. Nobody else is staying. That's your couch. Pay me my rent money, and we're good. And she always had money. My rent was $50 a month. Yeah, I know, really cheap. I know, $50 a month. But these people came with free stuff every so often. They would just say, Zach, we have a gift for you. Zach, we have a gift for you. Zach, hey, knock it on the door. We have a gift for you. What is it? Opiate. I told you, don't bring that stuff in the house. It has to be used right up. Okay, here you go, use it. Oh, thank you. And that became a problem. But in between this, I'm giving her little lectures. I'm preaching. I preach to the choir. I preach a lot. I preach to the homeless about God and all these things I've seen, all these great things. And like when I was at a church at the middle of a rainy night in the cold, I prayed for food. And 5 minutes later, not even, a guy opened his door and said, "Do you want McDonald's?" And it was out of nowhere. And we went to McDonald's. And like within 5 minutes after praying, I'm back in the same spot with McDonald's in my hand. That shit happened. When I was froze to death, I had a near-death experience or a vision or a dream, whatever you want to call it, that was so real